This is Big Tasty Sports.
One of the things that I am trying to stay committed to with Big Tasty Sports is not giving you any bullshit. So I'm going to start this video off right from the beginning by telling you that this serves two purposes. Number one, if you hang with me and look at everything we're going to go through, you are going to get a lot of insights into some good bets that you may want to make right now on some win totals for futures, playoffs. Kind of across the board, anything. I mean, I found a bet today that I made on the Jets to make the playoffs and the Packers not to at plus 150. FanDuel, I believe. So there are going to be lots of bets that I think, if that's what you're interested in, you're going to get from this. Number two, in the interest of no BS, I'm doing a lot of work and putting that out on Substack. There's free and paid subscriptions. The paid subscription is $7 a month, so it's not a ton of money. But I'm going to be walking through my primary spreadsheets that I'm using and will be updating throughout the season. And so this is part commercial too, if I'm honest. If you do a paid subscription, you're going to get access to this spreadsheet as I update it. And that's part of the value in futures betting, I think, is being able to stack bets, layer them, middle them, figure out whether you wait or pull the trigger, all those kind of things. And that's going to get updated, especially as we get closer to it probably won't get updated a ton week to week right now because there's not as big of news or anything. But as we get into the season, it's going to get updated a lot week to week. And that's something that I'm going to make available to paid subscribers that I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously biased because I'm doing it, but I've been hesitant to get into this world of having anybody pay for anything. And even now, it's not so much a bets service as it is information, but that information leads me in certain directions. And I'm making bets. I put out my full list of bets to the paid subscribers to every week or pretty much whenever I'm making new bets. So again, I think this video is going to give you a lot of insight if you're just interested in some good futures bets to make. And number two, I hope you could see the value and consider jumping on at bigtastysports.substack.com and getting this all the way throughout the season. How's that for being up front? All right. That said, let's go ahead and jump in on looking through this sheet, which I have to share my screen to do. All right. Sorry, I gotta flip over to my other screen here so I can see it. Okay, so what you've got, number one, this is the screen that I start from now. I've done some other things at the bottom, like I hate how StreamYard does this. Okay, so I did like a schedule strength score, so this helped me to understand how hard different team schedules were going to be. I'm going to be doing some things now that the schedule is out. And I saw Warren Sharp, if you follow him on Twitter, first go look him up because he did a great, just phenomenal job breaking down the teams that are getting extra rest and are going to be in better positions week to week because of their schedule. I'm going to do some of that stuff for myself so I can keep an eye on it and weave it into the overall scores that I'm giving teams, not only on a week to week basis, but throughout the season and how that affects the different futures bets for those teams. That's something that I'm still working on, so I don't have it here yet. So I've done all of that stuff to weave it into this week by week look at the NFL schedule. And the way that I approach this is I've considered going to 5 levels of prediction, but right now I'm just using 3. Basically, if a game is in yellow, I think that it is somewhere in the like 60 to 65% all the way down to 40 or 35%. So it's in the middle. Basically, it could go either way, even if I do favor one team. A good example would be Arizona going to Washington in week 1 without Kyler Murray. The first game right here at the top. I absolutely think that Washington should be favored in that game. I think that they will win that game. I believe the spread is 6.5 points right now, which I haven't bet it yet, so I guess I don't think it's way too wide. I think it might be a little wide, but Arizona's really not going to be good this year. This is one, and honestly, this is where this is dynamic. As we get toward the season, it's possible I end up turning that red for Arizona, which would be a loss, and green for Washington, which in my mind would be a win. But yellow doesn't mean that I don't favor a team. It's just I think it's close enough to in the middle that it's worth saying that it's a toss-up. The red, we'll just stick with Arizona here, means that I think it's a loss. Again, you'll see as you look across Arizona's schedule there, I have a lot of things in red and only a few things in yellow. I do have one in green. You could question that, but I do try to push myself to make predictions where I can based on the schedule. And I think the Rams are going to be really bad this year too. So again, I am not saying that every single one of these boxes is right or that I won't change any of them, but this is just and actually, the last time I updated this was almost a week ago now, right after the schedule release. And I am taking into account the buys and the schedule and all that kind of stuff. So I have that for every team, and I'm not going to walk through, every team's schedule, but you can see what this gives you also is a little bit of a visual as you look across teams of, do I think there's, majority red, majority green, majority yellow. I also use this to determine my bet signals, which I'll go through in just a little bit of, is this a team you want to bet now or a team you want to wait on? So I do all of that, and then I bring it over here, and I have wins, losses, and middle. So this, you could say this is green, red, and yellow from what I did before. And then I have a floor. So I have Arizona at a minimum of 1 win right now. I might have to move it to 0. We'll see. But again, I'm not going to change it all for this video. So I have them at 1 win, 12 losses, and 4 in the middle. That allows me to put a floor and a ceiling projection. 1 win, and actually this should be 5 wins as a ceiling because I have 1 plus the 4 in the middle that I think they could possibly win. And then I have their projected wins and projected losses. I also over here have a variability score. Let me talk for a minute about why I think this variability score matters. And this is going to be even more important as we get into the season. And let's say we're 4 weeks in. And what I do is, as we go through the season and week 1 games are played, I turn all of these either dark green or dark red. That means that the game has been won or the game has been lost. I update as I feel like it's useful to do so, as there are injuries or as we get more information about teams. I update all of these, and then I update wins, losses, middles, floor, ceiling, projected wins, projected losses. This is why I think you build a portfolio throughout the season with futures. It's not just something you do before the season. But then the variability score tells me how confident am I on the range of wins that I have for this team. So 0.235 for Arizona means it is a lower variability than a team like Atlanta, which I have near the top. In fact, we could sort this here and say, we'll sort this. My lowest variability team is Tampa. And you can see that I have them between 0 wins. Oh, and I got to update some of these ceilings. I must have forgotten to do that. So 0 and 2. So I would have them at 2 and 15. And because I don't have a wide range for them right now, that variability score is low. If you go to the other end, I've got Pittsburgh at almost a 0.53 variability. That's massive. I have their wins anywhere from 7 to 16. Now, do I think Pittsburgh is... Here's part of the point with this. It doesn't mean that I think Pittsburgh is going to win 16 games. Part of the value of having all 3 tiers is that I don't have to predict which of these yellow games they're going to win. What I can do is say, I think that they have 9 games that they have a chance in that are somewhere in the middle. I certainly don't think they'll win all 9, but then I glance back through those games that are yellow and say, okay, I think that they are likely to win 4 of those 9 games that are in that category. Actually, I have what I said for this projection was that they'd win 3 of them because I have them with 7 wins in the green, and then I've projected them for 10. But this variability score tells me, hey, you might want to be careful with this team because there's a significant possibility for them to move up or down because they have so many games that could go either way. This is one of the things that I really like about futures personally compared to betting week to week in the NFL. And I absolutely will do some betting week to week too. Looking forward to doing some content with other people around that and digging into that as well. But when you bet week to week, you have to determine, okay, so let's take an example here. Pittsburgh goes to Vegas. Now, I don't think Vegas will be great this year, but this is an away game after a Monday night game in Cleveland. That's what the M is, or at home against Cleveland. That's what the M here is. So it's short rest traveling out west. So that's a little bit more difficult thing schedule wise. And I do think that Vegas could be slightly better than maybe their overall projections right now. So that's why I would favor Pittsburgh to win this game. By how much, I don't know. What this allows me to do is to say, let's say they go lose that game, but then they're home against Baltimore 2 weeks later. I would favor Baltimore in that game. But I think they probably go 1-1 in those two games, one way or another. It allows me to project things in a way that doesn't require me to be right about every single game. It requires me to be right about the overall arc of their season. And so that's what this variability score does for me, is helps me understand how wide is the gap, or how big is the variance on what I think their win total is likely to be. So I'm probably going to be a little more hesitant about betting a team total or a division or those kind of things. Again, depending on the lines, all of that plays in with a team that I have down here with a high variability compared to one like I do at the top that has a very low variability. And again, these are things that I will be updating throughout the season. That's not stagnant. So the next thing that I have is we come over to the bet signals. This was the big thing for me with the schedule coming out. It's one thing we knew before the schedule release who people were going to play, and did a video and made some projections, and I made some bets before the schedule even came out, just based on who people would be playing. But once the schedule comes out, we get a lot more information, like I just shared with that example about Pittsburgh, of tough spots that teams might be in. These also I will update as we go through the season. Once we get to the season, I will update these every week, because this is going to change on a week-to-week basis. But right now you can see I have, like with Arizona, my bet signal is under now. In other words, if you want to bet the under, I think on their win totals, or, well, with them, it would mostly be with the win total. I doubt you want to lay whatever minus 2,000 or whatever on them not to make the playoffs. But you probably want to do that now. And then I have some notes here. With Murray out 3 to 6 weeks at the beginning of the season, it's hard to see them winning, even though their schedule isn't brutal. Could take an under now and hope to middle later when Murray comes back. That's if you think Murray even makes a big enough difference to get them some wins. And if he even comes back, if they're bad enough, who knows if they just kind of protect him this season and hope to get him back healthy for the next one. All those things are up in the air, but I don't have to know what's going to happen with all of those things right now. I can adjust as we go along and kind of see what happens. I believe the last time I looked at Arizona's win total was over under 4.5. And I had their projection at 2, I believe, where we looked. So again, talking about bets that you could consider making, that's one that you might want to consider. It's not one that I have placed yet, full transparency on that, but it is one that I'm considering, because I do think that that's going to probably move to 3.5 at some point, potentially even 2.5. So to get 4.5 now is a good bet. And then some of these based on the schedule, the bet signal is none. Like, I don't think the schedule affected what I thought about them a ton. And then there are ones here like Baltimore where I say, wait, they have a fairly tough first 4 weeks before a run of 5 very winnable games in a row. You risk them getting off to a hot start and the line's getting away from you, but I think the risk of waiting is worth it. In other words, they start with 4 tough games. Well, if they go 4-0, holy crap. Then they have 5 easy games after that. The line's going to get away from you on any futures bets. But because of those first 4 weeks being difficult, if they go 2-2, or if they go 1-3, and then they come up on 5 very winnable games, you're going to get a better line. Their win total is going to drop probably by 1 game if they go 1-3. Their odds to win the division, the conference, all those things, you're going to get better odds. And so these bet signals are what help me understand, do I bet now or do I wait? I take all of that and I come, and again, one other thing I want to say with this is I am going to be doing some more in-depth work on the schedule to get a little bit more data driven on which teams have an advantage in which spots. That's going to take a little while to really dive into. Again, go look up Warren Sharp's stuff on Twitter, because what he did is phenomenal. And I just have some nuanced ways that I want to do that for myself, but it's not like a new idea, and other people are doing a great job with that too. So go look that up. But I will have that, and that'll definitely affect what I do with these bet signals as we go through the season. So I take all that and I come over here to win totals, and I've transposed, and again, I have to update some of this, I think, a little bit, but you can see I transpose all that into what am I projecting for wins, my wins. And this is the kind of thing where, again, it's a little bit of a commercial, but also you could probably take some bets as I go through this that I think are pretty decent. I'm going to update this, and you're going to be able to see that. And so you're going to be able to reference this quickly. And as we go through, I'll show you how I'm trying to make it easy for you to read this and see where some bets are that you might want to consider, even if I haven't made them. But so I have what I'm projecting. I have that floor, the low, the ceiling, the high, and then I have Vegas's total here. And so what you can see here is the only way in my projections right now, and again, I could be completely wrong. So let's be clear about that. I never want to pretend that I am right about everything, because that is for sure not true. Though I think with the amount of work I put in, I can be right more than I'm wrong. But I'm going to be wrong sometimes. But if my projections are right, there is only one chance of me losing this bet, and that's that Arizona hits their high and makes it to 5 wins. Then I lose this bet. But their low is 1. So if they're at 1, 2, 3, or 4 wins, so I have 4 opportunities in the range of my projections to win this bet, then I win it. This is why I'm considering this bet right now, right? Even though I haven't pulled the trigger, you can see why, to me, this seems like a good bet. Then I have the lines that I've been able to find on the over and the under. I think most of these are from FanDuel right now. But if I have a bet I like, I absolutely go line hunting to see if I can find something better. And then I've brought the bet signal over here as well. So you can see I have, if you want to bet the under, I would bet that now. And that's what I'm considering, which is why I turn this green. In other words, this is a bet that I think is worth considering. Again, I'm not saying that I've made it. That is where I have my list of bets that I have placed that I'm sharing with people and updating on that paid subscription. But again, one of the reasons I really want to do this too for anybody who's watching, for subscribers, is you might feel differently about a team than I do. So let's just take Atlanta here. Atlanta's a team I'm relatively high on, though there is a pretty wide variance here. You can see I'm projecting them for 11 wins. Again, I've gone into before why I like them, so I won't go into that here. But I do have their low at 6. I have their high at 14. That's very high. And again, it doesn't mean I think they're going to get there, but this just goes back to the way that I went through the schedule. And then Vegas's total. And then I have this green. I actually got Atlanta at over 8 wins is the bet that I've already taken, but you could see that based on my projections, I still would think that over 8.5 is pretty good. I don't have a bet signal in terms of waiting or not, but my point here is, let's say that you think Atlanta's just going to suck this year. You think New Orleans is the truth with some of the changes that they've made. You believe in Derek Carr. I've got a little pushback from one of my friends on Twitter about what I think about Derek Carr in New Orleans. So let's say you totally disagree with me and you think Atlanta sucks and Bryce Young isn't going to be able to turn things around in Carolina this year. And of course, Tampa Bay, we can probably agree, should be pretty bad. So you think Atlanta's going to be lower. Well, you could adjust this in your mind and you can still say, hey, I still have the Vegas win total here. I have the lines. I think that the high for Atlanta is 10 wins, and I think their low is 4. Well, if you think it's 4 and 10, all of a sudden the under becomes the bet that you would want to consider. And using the bet signal, you could also, oh, that sounds like the bat signal. Never thought about that before. This is like the bat signal for betting. You could use that to also give you information about if you want to bet it now or you want to wait. So all of this information gets updated, and you can use it to make bets based on my projections, or you can say, Tasty, you're full of shit, and I know I have a better idea of what's going to happen. Well, great. You can still use this information to make those bets. Here's another example with Baltimore. So I have them projected for 11 wins. The over under is 10.5. So I'm really close on that, right? I have their low at 8 and their high at 15. The AFC North is a division I'm wrestling with more right now anyway. But I have this as red because to me, the bet signal is weight. Now, I wouldn't bet a game, an over with half a game of clearance probably anyway. Even at plus money, that's not a bet that I would make unless maybe it was plus 150 or plus 160. But at plus 116, I wouldn't make this. But in addition, my bet signal says, hey, even if you like Baltimore's over, we already went over this in the last in the last sheet. They start off with a tough schedule. So if they go 2-2 or 1-3, this number is going to drop from 10.5 to 9.5. And then if I still think based on my updated schedule projections that they end up with 11 wins, well, now I have a better bet at over 9.5 than I would right now at over 10.5. And if I miss out here, if they go 4-0 and then they have these easy games and they get to 8-1 or something, I totally missed this line. The number moves up. I'm okay with that. I can live with it because I want to make bets that I feel good about and confident about. And so I can live with missing something. What I can't live with is making bets where I should have waited and I missed the best lines because I didn't follow my projections. And so as you scroll down through this sheet, I'm not going to go through every one, but you can see right now I have if you like the under on Buffalo to go now, if you like the under on Chicago to go now, but if you like the over to wait. And so you could just scroll through this on the win totals, look at what I like, look at my projections, my low and high, think about where you're at in comparison to that if you disagree, and then take these bet signals into consideration on which bets you want to make now. And again, if you just want to tail what I'm doing, I do put that out for the paid subscribers on a regular basis. But I just think there's a lot more here that if you want to build a portfolio for yourself that doesn't just tail along, there's still information you can use here. Similar with the divisions, I did a whole video. If you want to go into depth on this division by division breakdown, go look at my last video on the YouTube channel. Maybe you're already on YouTube right now watching this. And I broke down every division. So I'm not going to do that now, but I just want to point out that this is another sheet that I will be updating throughout the season because this is going to move a lot. And I'm going by the dates, so I'll keep adding to this so you can look back historically at where the lines were in the projections and how that's changing. But similarly here, I have my projection for wins and losses. This is the low and the high. So instead of different columns, maybe I should change that. But 6 low, 14 high, in this case for Buffalo. I'll be putting in the variance. I didn't transfer this over yet, but so you can see more easily which teams I have a higher variance on, their odds to win the division, the implied probability, and then my probability, as well as the bet signal is in here as well, which helps to make some determinations about, do you want to bet this now? Green are things that I would either bet or would consider betting. Red are things I would not bet, and yellow is like, hey, this is something for you to think about. It's not a bet that I'm making, but based on all the information here, if you like it, you might want to consider it. So again, if you want more on that, go watch the NFL Futures Report video that I released right before this, because that has a lot more info. This is a tab that I haven't fully built out yet. You can see I have some initial projections here, but based again on all of the updated information, I'm taking that, laying out who I have to make the playoffs right now, what Vegas's line is on them to make the playoffs. I'm going to be adding this to this team's not to make the playoffs as well. I don't have that built in yet, but I will be adding that along with my percentages. So similarly, you could look at this and say, hey, I agree with you. I don't agree with you. That's fine. And one of the other things that I'll be doing is personally, the make or miss the playoff bets are ones that I don't go as heavy on as I do on the divisions and the win totals because of some of the variability there with tiebreakers and matchups. These yellow ones at the bottom are teams that I have tied right now. So I have 4 teams for 2 spots here and 2 teams for 1 spot here. Because of that, I don't tend to go as heavy, but if this is something that you're interested in, this is another thing that you'll be able to get there. So that goes through most of what I have. Again, I'm going to be adding more tools to help parse the divisions. Another thing that it's not on this sheet, but another thing I'm doing is based on historical turnovers, which really swings games. If you watched any of my stuff last year, you know how much I think turnover margin affect. Well, it's not my opinion. It's a historical fact that turnover margin affects games. So I'm doing quarterback rankings in terms of how many games is each quarterback likely to cost their team or get for their team, as well as projected defensive turnover rates. And then you can match those up game by game. So I'm going to be adding other layers to what I already have to hopefully help strengthen. And what I hope to do is reduce some of those variance numbers so that I can dial in better on which bets I want to make now. Let's just go back to win totals real quick. I told you there would be a couple bets, and I think I've mentioned a couple, like, again, I'll tell you if I've made it or not. Have not bet Arizona under, but I do like that and think I'm likely to end up taking something on the Arizona under. I do like Atlanta over 8.5. Again, I already took over 8, so I will probably not. Actually, I have to see if I added, because I do tend to add on things that I like as well. So I may have taken Atlanta over 8.5 as well, but I still like it. I think that's a pretty strong bet. Let me see if there are any others here that I liked. Okay, so here's one I'll point out too. This is not something that's on one of the sheets, but it's something I look at a lot, and this is a good example. I like Minnesota, so I could be a Green Bay hate. Well, I am a Green Bay hater, and that could affect what I think about their win total. But you can see their Vegas total is 7.5 wins, and I have their high at 6. So I definitely think that they're going under 7.5, and I have bet this, by the way. But part of the reinforcing thing for me on why to bet this is at most books, this was under 7.5 was minus 130, even minus 140. There was one book, I believe it was FanDuel. Once we click off of here, I can double check that and make sure. But if you look around, there was one book, probably FanDuel, where the under 7.5 was plus 100. So it was an outlier in the market too. And when I look at 5, 6, 7 different books, and all of them are unified except for one that's an outlier, and I like that bet anyway, that is definitely a buy for me. So personally, I have taken Green Bay under 7.5 wins at plus 100 and feel pretty good about that bet. And then let's see. What's one more that I'd want to throw out there that I like? I guess the other one. So I got the Rams under 7.5 at minus 135, I want to say. So the line was a little bit higher here, but I get another game. But again, I have the projection here as between 0 and 5 wins. I don't think they actually end up with 0. You can see my actual projection is 3. I think they could start out kind of okay this season, but then injuries, discouragement, lots of things can come in. They could be sellers by the trade deadline as well. So I think this is a team that goes into tank mode at some point. So even under 6.5, I think is a good bet. The only challenge there is that they are going to play Arizona twice, and they definitely could win both of those games. But again, they can get all the way up to 6. Let's actually flip back over to the schedule real quick here and just take a closer look. So beginning of the season, when maybe they're a little stronger, they go to Seattle, which is always hard. They have San Francisco. Hard to see them beating San Francisco. They go to Cincinnati on Monday night. They go to Indianapolis. That maybe is a winnable game. But again, because it's on the road, a second game on the road in a row after a Monday night game, I think I don't favor them there, at least. Like, I think it's likely that Indianapolis is able to win that game. Then they get Philadelphia, which is a tough game. So then they do have Arizona. I think Pittsburgh is going to be good. So I think even this, I may be changing that to red. At the very least, it's yellow but shaded toward red for me. They have to go to Dallas. To Green Bay, I'm not real high on Green Bay, But I still think by the middle of the season, Green Bay is likely to be better than the Rams are. Seattle again, to Arizona. I have that as red right now. You could change that to yellow. That's the one that I talked about earlier, that maybe there needs to be a change. They get Cleveland, who I think is going to be okay. And again, part of what I'm projecting here is that by this point in the season, they're really in full-on tank mode. And so I don't think they're beating that. That's part of probably why I have them losing to Arizona even. Baltimore, Washington, that's winnable. I have it as yellow. New Orleans at home on a Thursday, which home teams on a Thursday, especially with a lot of travel involved, that's why I have that one yellow as well. But then they have to go to the Giants and going to San Francisco. So you can see as I walk through this why I got where I did. Hopefully you can see that with the Rams. I think 4 games won would be a really good season for them. And you can still get under 6.5 at -122. So that's another win total I like there. I told you there would be some bets, so there's 4 that I like pretty well. Let me click over real quick here and see what on Green Bay. So I got Green Bay under 7.5 at +104. But I still like that at +100. I definitely still like that. So that's something you might want to consider as well. All right, that is a deep dive. Hopefully you're able to stick with me all the way through that and see if you, again, go to bigtastysports.substack.com, $7 a month, even cheaper than that if you want to just pay for a whole year. I think it's $40 for a year. And if you check, I will put in the description of this video, until the end of May, there is a code to even get 25% off, or you can get a 7-day free trial, all these things. So it's pretty cheap. Hopefully these tools will be helpful enough to more than make up for it. And if you're a paid subscriber, you're going to get all of the bets that I actually make and some additional information walking through that sheet on a week-by-week basis once we hit the season, as well as some of these QB turnover projections and lots of other stuff. All right, that's a long enough commercial, right? Probably not a lot of people sticking through the commercial, but if you have, I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you who have been watching, giving me feedback. I love it, want to get better at this, and enjoy doing it with other people. So thanks for that. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you later.